What if I told you there's a simple concept that professional screenwriters use that elevates their scripts from good to great? It's the same principle which Vince Gilligan used to make Breaking Bad so unforgettable, Phoebe Waller-Bridge used to make Fleabag so hilarious and gut-wrenching, and Bong Joon-ho used to make Parasite so gripping and darkly funny. In this video, I'm going to show you the invisible engine powering every great screenplay. And once you learn this secret, your scripts will never be the same. What's happening, party people? This is James A. Hurst. One day I hope to be James the Hurst. I'm an internationally tolerated screenwriter and story nerd, and this is my channel where I show writers, filmmakers, and other sketchy misfits how to elevate their craft and tell the stories they are meant to tell. Before we dive in, if you're a screenwriter, you know that compelling dialogue is one of the most important skills you can master. So you want to grab my free PDF, Write Dialogue Like a Boss. Click the link below to grab your free copy and start writing dialogue like a boss. In this video, I'm going to be talking about a technique called the unity of opposites. By the end of this video, you'll know how to use this technique to pump your scenes full of tension, make your conflict compelling, and jolt your dialogue with electricity. And I'll give you the simple framework I use to create conflict in my scripts for shows like Hardy Boys, Wynonna Earp, and Flashpoint. But before I break down this technique for you, let me tell you about how I came to learn about this technique in the first place. When I was in film school, that's me there, looking like the love child of Eddie Vedder in pure desperation, I faced the problem that all screenwriters face. My scripts were... In my screenwriting class, I wrote a script about two siblings fighting over their dad's will. The conflict was there, but my teacher's note in big red letters was, "Why can't they just split the money?" It was kind of an asshole thing to say if I'm being honest, but he had a point, and he had a fix. He pointed me to a book called The Art of Dramatic Writing. It was written in 1942 by Hungarian playwright and teacher Lajos Egri, and I hope I'm saying that name right. It's one of the best books on dramatic theory. Egri has a lot to say about character, but the theory that really stuck with me is the unity of opposites. It was a game changer for me, and believe me, it's going to supercharge your writing. Okay, I know unity of opposites sounds super boring. It sounds like something you'd hear in a philosophy class taught by a guy who only drinks kombucha. So this mother lover is going to define it for you real quick. The unity of opposites is the theory that great conflict comes from characters with opposing needs, values, or goals who are locked together in a situation where neither can back down or walk away. See, a lot of emerging writers write conflict by having their characters argue about something trivial like who gets the last slice of pizza. But smart screenwriters know that true conflict happens when two characters fundamentally disagree on whether pizza should even exist in the first place. And one of them owns the only pizza shop in town, and the other has to work there because they desperately need the money, but they're deathly allergic to gluten. That's the unity of opposites at work, and coincidentally, the plot of my new movie coming to Hallmark this holiday season, Christmas by the Slice. Summing up, the unity of opposites is a super effective technique that works by trapping two complete opposites together and closing off the escape routes. When characters who drive each other nuts can't get away from each other, that's when you've got conflict audiences can't turn away from. You've also got My First Marriage. Hey, try the veal. Using this theory to build your cast of characters will turn even the most casual conversation in your screenplay into a pressure cooker. The audience just can't look away because they know something or somebody is going to break. Let's take a look at some case studies. One of the best examples of this technique can be found in Breaking Bad. On one side, you've got Walter White, a calculated, ego-driven chemistry teacher whose cancer diagnosis turns him from law-abiding citizen to criminal mastermind. On the other, you've got Jesse Pinkman, an emotional, impulsive young addict who's struggling to find his moral compass.
Look, I'm telling you, Mr. White, it's too risky. Okay? I mean, we're making money. Why can't you just be satisfied with the way it is?
Come on! Jesus! Just grow some fucking balls!
Breaking Bad is a three-legged race where one guy's dragging the other toward hell and the other's begging for a way out. A relationship where one character is constantly saying, "We should probably not murder people," while the other is saying, "Have you considered how much easier life would be if we just murdered everyone?" Now, I hope you don't think that the unity of opposites only works when you've got two characters who are at each other's throats, because this technique works in all sorts of contexts. Look at Issa and Molly in Insecure. Issa's vibrant, impulsive, and creative, but struggling professionally. Molly, her best friend, is calculated, pragmatic, and very successful at work, but struggling personally. These two best friends challenge each other's choices, but can't walk away from each other because their friendship is core to who they are. They drive each other crazy and push each other's buttons, but they're bound by years of personal herstory. Now, the unity of opposites also doesn't have to be about just two characters. It works with an ensemble as well. In Succession, we've got 4 adult siblings with wildly different personalities, all desperately competing for one thing they can't share: their father's approval. They're all trapped in the same toxic orbit around Logan Roy, a man who shows affection the way a cat brings you dead birds. It's technically a gift, but leaves you questioning the relationship.
Ladies and gentlemen, the first fucking thing my son's ever done right in his life.
And the unity of opposites doesn't have to be about multiple characters either. In fact, you can use this technique with just one. Take Tony Soprano. He wants to be a good husband and a loving dad, but he also wants to be a feared and respected mafia capo, and that means every now and then he's going to have to peel a cap on a mother lover. These two desires are completely opposite. As Lajos Egre said, the real unity of opposites is one in which compromise is impossible. It's kind of like when I want to hoover an entire bag of Cheetos at 3 a.m., but I also want to not hate myself in the morning. This internal war has never led me to create an Emmy-winning series, but it has led to what my therapist calls a concerning pattern. Another great example of a character who has a unity of opposites within her is Fleabag. She's charming, hilarious, and completely shattered by grief. She connects with us by breaking the fourth wall, but she's disconnected from everyone else. That's what makes her so compelling, the tension between who she performs as and who she actually is. It makes her fascinating to watch. So we've seen how great writers use the unity of opposites theory to supercharge their stories. But before I show you the simple hack that I use to harness this theory in my own writing, I want to take a moment to spotlight one film that absolutely nails this technique. You won't find a better example of the unity of opposites than this. Let's talk about a movie that doesn't just use the unity of opposites. It builds every scene, every theme, and even its set design around it. In 2020, Parasite made history as the first non-English language film to win Best Picture at the Oscars. And it did it by exploring what happens when two families, one rich and one poor, are locked in the same system and neither can escape without consequences. At the top, you've got the Parks, rich, oblivious, and soft. At the bottom, you've got the Kims, poor, cunning, and desperate. They don't just clash, they coexist. They depend on one another. And that's where the tension comes from. They're not enemies, they're mirror images, living on different levels of the same world. What makes Parasite so brilliant is how Bong Joon-ho physicalizes the unity of opposites. The Parks live in a sleek hilltop mansion. The Kims live in a semi-basement that floods when it rains. Up versus down, clean versus dirty, privilege versus just scraping by. They're complete opposites, united because they can't exist without each other. The Parks rely on the Kims to maintain their lifestyle, and the Kims rely on the Parks' money to survive. That interdependence, that unity of opposites, is the source of constant, almost unbearable tension.
그래도 여러모로 아쉽죠. 상당히 괜찮은 아줌마였거든 그 양반이. 집안 구석구석 관리도 잘하고 그리고 매사에 손을 딱 잘 지켜. 내가 원래 손을 넘는 사람을 제일 싫어하는데.
With Parasite, Bong Joon-ho doesn't just create class conflict, he creates class entanglement. And that's the genius of this movie. The unity of opposites isn't just driving the characters, it's baked into the DNA of the story itself. But now you know the secret behind unstoppable conflict. The real question is, how do you use it to supercharge your script? So I hope by now you've got a strong handle on the theory and you've seen how great writers and filmmakers have used it to take their stories from good to truly exceptional. But how can you use this technique in your own writing? Well, let me show you a technique that I use. It's an exercise that I use every time I sit down to write, whether I'm planning the story or if I'm even just writing a scene. Let's say your next script has one protagonist and one antagonist. What you do is you take out a piece of paper or you open a new document, and then you're going to write 3 things they fundamentally disagree on, 3 things they secretly have in common, and 1 thing each needs from the other that they can't get anywhere else. That last one, that's the key. That's the key to unlocking the unity of opposites. You have to unite or bond your characters. You have to trap them so that they can never get away from one another because they need something from the other person. This simple exercise at the start of your screenplay, or even, at the start of a scene, will help you build characters that will drive constant, compelling conflict. And you can use this technique anytime you write. So the next time you're writing a scene and it feels flatter than Ben Affleck's emotional range, ask yourself, can these characters walk away from one another? If the answer is yes, you need to rethink the dynamic. Your characters should be trapped together like 2 people in an ideological pressure cooker where every moment increases the chance of explosion. So try this exercise from the video and post your unity of opposites dynamic in the comments. I'll read them while pretending to write. This is James A. Hurst for Screenwrite. And remember, be easy, stay awesome,